Hey, Deserving listeners, I'm going back and rewatching Season 3 of Love is Blind, knowing what we know now after the season and the interviews, keeping that in mind. I'm just going to watch the key scenes. Let's watch.
I'm quite a sexual person, so sleeping with Cole for the first time felt great. You know, we're engaged, we're in love, we're adults. It couldn't possibly be anything like a one-night stand. It couldn't be anything where I was like gonna feel used after.
Okay. All right, so it sounds like from Zanab's recall that their first night together sexually was good and enjoyable. Maybe great. So I forgot about that detail.
I'm gonna go take a shower.
Okay.
So this is after he woke up at before 8 or woke up at 8 and left to go work out, and then he comes back and presumably they've had some bit of interaction where he's getting some bit of a cold shoulder, I think, and now there's some tension, and you see that look on his face. He's looking at her, trying to. It's just, I don't know, who knows if they edit it a certain way, but he seems like he's worried. He's trying to please.
I think in the ideal world, with a fiance that you just got engaged to, you know, you'd wake up, you'd have a really sweet morning, like just a little, you know, coffee in bed, breakfast in bed, holding one another. Again, Cole just kind of rolled over and got right out of bed and then didn't really talk to me for a couple of hours.
Okay, so the way she describes it right there is not bad, right? It doesn't have any negative connotation to it. She says, I think in an ideal world, you'd wake up, have breakfast together, and have an intimate moment, but he just got up and went, you know, and worked out. And so it's hard to interpret that as some horrific thing that he did, right? Now, I don't know if Zanab really accused him of doing something horrific, but I think a lot of other people who might have different sorts of sensitivities to Zanab would have, you know, fine, you're a little hurt, you're a little concerned, like, well, what does this mean? But I think most people, they wouldn't have any reaction. I think a lot of people would be like, oh, he's working out, big deal. I'm going to go along with my routine and he'll be back soon, you know? So, and I remember detecting that at the time. I was like, uh-oh, that sounds like someone that has some schema that they're viewing the world through. And she didn't say anything like he was purposely, upsetting to me. All that she said was he woke up, he went to work out, and his story sounds credible as well, that he's saying, I just didn't want to wake her up in the morning, and I told her the night before, I'm going to get up early. So, you know, they apparently had a conversation about when they wake up. She must have indicated that she tends to sleep in, because he said, by the way, I'm going to wake up early, so just be aware of that. I'll try to be quiet so I don't wake you up. And and that's what happened. Then he comes back and she's already upset at him. She didn't say anything, and maybe she will, but she didn't say anything like he was hostile with me, or, when we just can't even really imagine that happening anyway, right? So all that the data that even she presented was he woke up before I did and went to work out, and then he came back.
As a woman, I think it's just very easy to get in your head about those things. Like, hey, what changed? What did I do?
Yeah, me and the woman-man talk on the show. Plenty of men have the exact same vulnerability. It might manifest along gendered lines, meaning that men and women are sometimes or often are socialized differently, so men might manifest it in a slightly different way. But they're just bell curves that are overlapping. And so there are plenty of men that would have the exact same interpretation, given their relational schemas, their difficulties, and would behave in the exact same way. So it's not a woman-man thing, believe me. And it's a problem to think of it like that, because when men do present with these schemas, they often get shunted or categorized into a different category, instead of seen for their relational traumatic reactiveness. So anyway, she's saying, for women, it's normal for us to get up in our heads. If I were there, I'd say, well, are you saying that you get up in your head about it? Is that what you're saying? Are you saying that you start to get paranoid or start making up stories in your head or blow something out of proportion? Is that what you're saying?
As a woman, I think it's just very easy to get in your head about those things. Like, hey, what changed? What did I do? Is it me? It was something about last night. Yeah, at this point, I don't even know if he's physically into me.
Yeah. There's, now, maybe she'll have other data. Maybe other data just wasn't presented. I'm guessing she would say that there was other data that, she doesn't want to talk about or something. But all that has happened is they met up for the first time. They're in love. They're engaged. And he was jokey. And he positively a number of times in a number of ways said that without makeup, she is just as beautiful as without. In fact, he said, you don't even look any different than without your makeup. They had sex, and from her account, it went well. And then he gets up and he works out before she gets up, and he's coming back. And she concludes the following. I'll rewind that.
What did I do? Is it me? It was something about last night. Yeah, at this point, I don't even know if he's physically into me.
Now, maybe what she means by that is, I don't have enough data to know if he's physically into me. I don't have any reason to say he's not into me, but we just don't have enough of a track record for me to trust that he's into me. Okay, that would be rational for the most part. But I think what she actually is indicating that she's concluding he is not into me. And that's what I was talking about before, which is for people with these schemas, the questions arise, but they also come with an answer. The question is, am I about to be betrayed? Am I about to be abandoned? And there's a large voice inside of them that is saying, yes, you are actually right now being betrayed. You are right now being abandoned. And then when you believe that inner voice, because of what happened to you in the past, of course, you're going to have tremendous amount of anxiety and pain. And if you're unaware of what's happening, you're going to blame the other person. You're going to be like, how dare you abandon me and betray me like that? How dare you do that to me? That's when the hostility comes out.
What?
You need the steam?
I'm using the iron. Old school.
Said Zay Hearts Cole.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so he's trying to connect. He's trying to be his silly self to break the ice. And then she is talking. She has a certain older person vibe to her, a kind of mom or grandma, maybe not grandma, but sort of an authoritarian vibe to her. And so she gets it's that tone in her voice.
Said Zay Hearts Cole.
Yeah, I got it.
It's like the way you hear parents talk to their kids. Okay, got it. The way that you would placate a child. And you could argue he's being childish for sure, but I think he's in there's an opportunity. He's lobbing the ball over the plate, and all she has to do is take a swing at it and hit it, where she could be like, "I love you too," or "Get out of that shower so that we can have fun today," or "I do love you and you love me," or there's just a myriad of responses other than, "Yeah, got it."
I think Zanab and I are very physically compatible. I think last night.
Actually, I don't think I caught that the first time, but I think he's saying, he has a question mark there. He's like, does Zay love Cole? I think, question mark. Do you, in his passive way, but more direct than she is, saying, do you still love me? Because I feel like you hate me. You're really distant in this moment. I think that's, and then all of his goofiness here, he's again lobbing balls over the plate of just like, please take a swing.
Compatible. I think last night solidified that. Like, yes, we fell deeper in love last night than we were the day before. When we woke up, I thought everything was fine, but Zanab thought that I was disappointed or that I was in a mood or something. And then later she's like, what's wrong? She felt like I was giving her this.
The cameras arrived after they had had some discussion after he came back from the workout, and she said, "What's wrong?" And so we don't know how well he did in his part in responding to that. He could have been defensive. He could have been off-putting in some way. So it's hard to know.
Silent treatment. Truth is, I was just really tired and trying to let her sleep, but she's not giving off this vibe of like, I love you so much. She seems a little standoffish still. And maybe like she's over-analyzing everything and feels like we're kind of clashing a little bit.
Yeah, it's interesting. He seems to have a pretty good grasp on what's actually happening. Again, a lot of people in his shoes could interpret it of, oh, it's nothing, everything's fine, when clearly everything isn't fine. So, you know, he sees something, he notices something is wrong. Also, he could conclude that she's a jerk face, but he's not framing it that way. He's like, I think she's assuming things that are making her overly hurt or concerned about what's happening, and I think we're also kind of clashing a bit. He even words it in a nicer way. He says she's being standoffish, but I think he actually would also potentially say, if he were being more, I don't know, just more clear or more risky in his conceptualization verbally, would be to say that she's being hostile. She's being mean to me in this moment. So he's tempering that a little bit, saying that she's being standoffish.
But then she literally told me that she loves me. So we're supposed to be getting married in like 4 weeks or something. So I have to believe what she's saying. I'm just maybe reading into it too much. So
yeah, it's so interesting. Now, I don't know, maybe I'm reading it completely wrong, and the common narrative of their relationship is manipulated by the producers. I can't know. There's just no way to know. But in terms of what's being presented, it is interesting how when we have schemas of various kinds, but if we focus on abandonment and betrayal schemas, we are worried we're going to be abandoned and betrayed, and we're always seeing signs of it when they don't really exist, and then we get overly hurt, and when we defend against that, we actually download into the other person what we are feeling on the inside, what we're trying to get rid of. This is projective identification, by the way. And he is saying, let's run that, hear his words.
They told me that she loves me. So we're supposed to be getting married in like 4 weeks or something. So I have to believe what she's saying. I'm just maybe reading into it too much.
I'm reading into it too much. So he's starting to feel what she feels times 100. That he's saying, I think I am starting to have thoughts and assumptions that she hates me and that she's going to abandon me or betray me. But I think I'm inventing that in my mind. I don't know, but I kind of feel like maybe it's true. So it's interesting, and it's a good assessment tool for a therapist, that when we start feeling certain feelings and it motivates certain thoughts, if we're aware of our countertransference, it's a good potential assessment tool. It's not always the case, of course, but it's one indication of what's going on inside the client. Because, you know, when I was full-time as a therapist for many years, I'm not anymore, but it was interesting because I'd be seeing 8-10 clients a day, and hour to hour, I would have completely different feelings, different emotions, different vibes. I would have varying degrees of confidence as a therapist, very different degrees of safety in a relationship. So you really sense the contrast of the way that I would feel, the emotions that would be provoked in me as a therapist as I'm talking to a client. And you start to use that as a tool of just like, okay, what is it about our relationship? What is it about what's going on inside this client? What is it about their schemas, their defenses, their projective identification that is producing these feelings in me? And because sometimes clients will not be aware of it, or they will be trying to hide it. It's also a way to have empathy, because if I'm feeling the way abandonment and betrayal traumas will manifest as through projective identification from the client is I will start to feel like I'm not a good therapist, and I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, that I'm not smart enough, I'm not helpful enough, that kind of thing. There's various other thoughts. I'll notice those thoughts, or actually won't even notice those thoughts. What I'll notice are the thoughts or the behaviors I engage in to defend against those thoughts. So you have the feeling, which results in a thought, which results in a behavior. And the behavior would be something like I'd be scrambling to like get them to agree with some conceptualization I have, and they're like, I'm a little skeptical of that, and I'm like, oh well, or I might even be angry at a client because they're rejecting a conceptualization that I have. And if I am aware, which I would say was about half the time, I would go, oh, I'm doing that thing again. I'm getting angry at a client because they're not agreeing with my conceptualization. Why am I trying to convince them of a conceptualization? Like, what's up with that? I think what's happening right now is I think I'm failing as a therapist. That's the thought I have. What's below that thought? Well, I must be worried that I'm not good enough as a human being or something, or that my client is going to fire me as a therapist. Why do I feel that? Well, I didn't feel that last hour. What do I know about this client that would inform the potential projective identification? And another way that it's framed sometimes by therapists is that clients will give us feelings and we will process their emotions for them. We will digest the emotions for them so that they don't have to do all of the work. And, so I think that might be what's happening here with him.
I'm trying to look outdoorsy. Might end up looking a little Crocodile Dundee, though.
Crocodile Dundee.
Do you know who that is?
No, but it sounds incredible.
It was before your time.
Oh boy, here we go.
So there's that playfulness, and yeah, I don't know if she's just making a joke, but yeah, it's not any more before his time as it is before her time.
Is it?
And when I brought it up with my wife, I remember after watching this scene, and I was asking my wife, how she feels about Crocodile Dundee. She was saying, I kind of feel like Crocodile Dundee's before my time. And then I thought, yeah, I think it is before my time as well. Like, I think I would have been in middle school when that movie came out, and I don't think it was really geared towards my age of people. I don't remember being into Crocodile Dundee. I remember being aware of it.
Facial expressions. I know that the guy on the other side of the pod is the guy that I fell in love with. But I do think there's a disconnect there. And hopefully, we'll have better mornings than we had this morning.
You still actually care about me, right?
I do.
Yeah, there's that scene where he whispers, I think because he doesn't want to have a big confrontation in front of the cameras, I think, or he's just trying to be cute. I would imagine it's more the former. I don't know. You still care about me, right? And she's like, I do. So verbally, she says yes, but non-verbally, she's not saying yes.
We'll have better mornings than we had this morning.
You still actually care about me, right?
I do.
Yeah. And you just think that if she didn't have the distortions that I think she has, I'm not sure, then she would interpret what he just did as a clear indication of one, that he is still concerned about their relationship. He's like, he's worried about losing her, and so that would indicate he doesn't want to lose her and isn't trying to move away from her. And two, that her attempts at trying to communicate her displeasure with him are going too far. That he's now questioning whether or not she even cares about him. So, and then she feels justified in giving him this kind of vibe. So, yeah, I think I would imagine, and I remember thinking this at the time, that although after this point, they might have had moments where they thought maybe this could work if they worked on things, I think there's so much damage that happens. If this were 3 years into a relationship, not so much, but they barely know each other. And to have a moment like this, I think for perhaps both of them, but I think for at least Cole, that he would say, oh no, like, I can't do this. I'm guessing a pretty big part of him. I could be wrong about that. I mean, in fact, I probably am wrong about that, because I think the amount of love, legit love, that they feel as a result of being in the pods, I think is really quite strong, and so this wouldn't erase that. But I have to say, like, knowing what we know now, everything is basically summarized in this first morning together. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.